I just resumed my day. I couldn't care less. Like, it didn't bother me that much. But in terms of on the pitch, I mean, to be fair, if you're gonna say something like that, you better be smashing it on the pitch, and you're really not. And one of the things that you mentioned there is about him taking his man and all that. It used to be one of my frustrations where when he recycled the ball well at United, people got pissed and like, oh, he doesn't take on his defenders enough. But to be fair, it has been a couple years. He is right now in a team that most of his teammates have significantly less experience than him. He is technically one of the, I don't mean technical, but like he's technically one of the most experienced players that are on this team. He played across Europe. He played in Champions League finals. When the team is not performing and you look for someone, he needs to be one of the names that get called upon. I said that's one thing he didn't have in his game that he hasn't worked on yet. Now, I understand the type of player he is, and Henry said it perfectly. He is a player that looks good when the team is good. And that's fine. I mean, he rarely looks bad when the whole team is performing well. The issue is when the team is not performing and it needs someone to step up. He's never added that extra element in his game where he's like, you know what? Today I'm gonna be a little bit more risky. Today I'm gonna take a little bit more shots. Today I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive. When the team is not scoring goals, I'll try to pop off with a goal. It's not his game, but he could have added that. I've seen players throughout the years kind of come out of that shell and they start working on that and they start being a little bit more impactful. He's never the X factor on any team. He's never the needle mover. And that's why right now, as bad as Chelsea have been, you look at their front line, everyone is relying on someone else to chip in with GA. So you have Nico Jackson, example, who's not getting goals. He's suffering from the fact that his wingers don't score goals, and he doesn't have a replacement to come in and he could get benched for one game and he'll get the goals. Same thing for Sancho. Same thing for Neto. They all look for someone else when the team is not scoring enough goals. They need someone else on that team to score. And when you look at their history, that is true. I mean, Neto in Wolves, he had strikers like Jimenez and whatever that were banging in goals. Sancho, when he was at Dortmund, his best time, he had Haaland next to him. You look at these players right now. If Cole Palmer is not on his best and he's just carrying this team, who's chipping in with goals? Who's gonna bail us out today when we're not playing good? And that's what I'm saying. Like, you go through a bad period of time where you're not winning enough games, and you look at the reason. All these players need someone to do that job for them, and they don't have that. So it's on him, honestly. It's on him. He should have developed that part of his game, as I said a long time ago, but he doesn't have that.
Yeah, but I think sometimes we just have to like meet footballers where they are. I don't think he's going to be that aggressive player that's going to be scoring.
That's what I said. I said he's not that, but he never added that.
No, I mean, like, that's fair enough. But I just think, like, in terms of, like, well, Sancho looks good when the team's playing good. I kind of feel like Chelsea have just fallen off a cliff these last, like, few months. Like, they've just not been as good as they were to start off the season. And, I mean, you can kind of say that for most of their players, right? Like, Pedro Neto, I think, is falling off as well. Say it again?
Sorry to cut you off. What do you think that's, like, Chelsea's downfall is because the manager, players?
I think it's more so down to the players. I think it's easy to blame the defense and the goalkeeper because it's not good. But I think that their attack has let them down massively. And not just Nicholas Jackson. Even though you could say, well, maybe if they had a more clinical 9 up front, then maybe they wouldn't have gone through this little bad run of form. But I think it's like what Staffy said. Okay, so if Cole Palmer is not on his game, then who else is there that can chip in with goals? Well, Sancho is more of a link-up striker, creator kind. Same thing with Pedro Neto. And then you kind of have, like, Nico Jackson, who's a good footballer. I just don't think that he's a good striker. And then Cole Palmer, who's the only person that you can look to be aggressive in that final third. So I think Chelsea, maybe they misprofiled when they were building this team in terms of they should have gotten more aggressive players. But I think at the end of the day, Maresca is going to be the one that gets blamed ultimately if the team fails. But I think it's more so on the players than the manager, to be honest.
Just to ask like an open question to you guys and everyone in the chat. If Chelsea don't get top 4 and don't win the Conference League, do you guys think they'll sack him?
Yes, you have to win the Conference League.
No, even if they win the Conference League, if they don't finish top 4, I think they should sack him. And I don't think it's just because he'll miss on top 4. In the beginning, I didn't think they'll make top 4 anyways. I thought they'd contend for it, but then they started magnificent. I was like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. The stagnation in the way they just like, you look at them the last 6-7 games, they
10
just
10
bro.
games. To give you a
I meant
stat,
like more in the league, but It's
Yeah,
10 games in the league that there you go.
The league. It's been 10 games across all comps, including this FA Cup game, and Morecambe were in there as well. They've got 3 wins, and one of them was against Morecambe.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They've got 2 wins outside of that, and the performances. Again, maybe in the first 4 or 5, they were playing quite well, not taking chances, then losing late. Since then, the performances have become flat. On a results-based piece of analysis, which is important, but you shouldn't always be about results-based. Man United have been horrendous, but in our last 10 games, we have got 6 wins. Now, Chelsea have 3. Let's be honest, one of them is against Morecambe. You take that Morecambe game out, they've got 1 win 2 wins in their last out of their last 10. That isn't good enough. And I do think he's, I was listening to Chelsea fans speak at the weekend. They were talking about he's running out of ideas, his substitutions are poor. Obviously, they've blamed the club for getting rid of some of the wrong players and not buying more in the window. There's a percentage of Chelsea fans, and we have a lot that come on the terrace, that believe they've got a squad that's better than Arsenal's, believe they've got a squad that's better than up there with Liverpool's. And that's not a dig. But there's a reason I'm saying this. It's not even a dig. They think it's that good. Therefore, they are absolutely, even if they either still believe it. So, of course, if you believe your squad is top 2 in the league and you're 5th or 6th, of course, you're going to turn on the manager. It stands to reason if you believe it. Some others, rather than not admitting that they were wrong, will say, oh, Enzo got it wrong anyway. The point I'm actually making is that there's so many reasons to turn on Maresca and deflect away from other issues. And I was listening to a Chelsea fan stream earlier on today, and he just keeps talking about all the great strikers that he wants them to bring in the summer. And once we've got those guys, we'll be okay. I'm being honest. I'm getting to a point where I think, is it just about buying a player or 2 now at Chelsea? This is 7 years not challenging for a league title. They haven't. I can't remember the last time they won. Is it the last time they won a domestic trophy was 2018 when they beat Man United? So we're now getting towards 8 years without a league title challenge. 7 years without a domestic trophy. They have that Champions League. I'm not saying you remove it because it's in their history, but they haven't looked like winning very much. They've even been to a few finals since then and not got over the line. But this is a club that I've just got this gut. Look, I've got the same energy for my club. I don't know if it is just a couple of players away anymore. Again, if you believe that the squad is top 2 in the league, then absolutely you just sign a couple more players and you're there and get the right manager. But is it as simple as that? Is maybe my question, because
I think that it is.
Okay.
But I think that it is that simple because I think their squad is very good. Like, I know that the run of form has not been the best, but I think they're still a young team that's still trying to learn how to play together. But I do think that it's a matter of 3 players. And I know that Henry had the question, well, do you think that Maresca would get sacked? I think the manager's always the sacrificial lamb, but I don't think he's the issue, right? Like, we saw in the January window what Chelsea needed, right? Their center backs are awful. They don't have a good center back. Levi Colwill is a bum. Trevor Chalobah is mid. Wesley Fofana is never fit. Their goalkeeper is probably the worst goalkeeper out of all the big 6 clubs. And then we know that up front, they don't have anybody that's clinical aside from Cole Palmer. And then the board, instead of addressing any one of those issues, they sign more young players that are not going to be able to help them right now. I swear that they brought in a midfielder from France on deadline day.
So, Will, I understand. So I understand that. But I was someone that was saying, and my mind is only being changed by other Chelsea fans. I'm being led by Chelsea fans here because I was of the belief that, you know what, in January, you go and sign a world-class centre-back and a top-class striker, they could go on and challenge for the league at least. But you've just sort of said, you've just named the majority of their defenders aren't good enough. Their goalkeepers are not good enough. They only have 1 clinical attacker. That sounds like it isn't just a couple of players. That sounds like they need 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more players, which, if it's true, then they can't have the second best squad in the league.
No. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, right? So, for example, the way that Chelsea were linked to Garnacho, right? Let's say, what was the bid? It's supposed to be like 60 million or something like that, right? 60 million can get you a top goalkeeper, right? You could have got like Diogo Costa from Porto for 60 million, right? That fixes the goalkeeper issue. Center back, I think that you just need 1 really good center back. I'm not even saying that you need somebody that's world class. Chelsea just need a center back that's competent. They don't have a competent center back. I think Trevor Chalobah has done decent since coming back from Palace, but Levi Colwill is awful. And then Fofana can't stay fit, like I said. But if you look at their fullbacks, for example, right, you have I know that like Malo Gusto is going through a rough patch his second season, but he's still a very good player, right? Kukurea, a few weeks ago, people were talking about him as being in the team of the season so far. And then if you look at their midfield, right, you have Caicedo, you have like Enzo, you also have like Cole Palmer in the 10. You like
Lavia as well.
like Lavia when he's fit. They have a very good team, right? We cannot act like it's not a good squad. I think a majority of people would take that squad to work with. But I just think that their board isn't actually thinking about this team as contenders. I think their board is looking at young players that they can buy now for a little bit cheaper, make good, and then sell for profit, because that's what the squad building looks like. So again, I don't think Maresca is the problem. I don't think that he's been backed properly, which sounds crazy because how much money they spent, but he just came in. But I don't think that they've backed him in terms of, okay, we see that this team needs a center back, goalkeeper, and another striker. Then they haven't given him any of that. So to me, like, that's the issue.
I think you're only half correct here. Should they have done a couple more signings? Yes, I agree. I think they should have had a second striker in already. They should have had another center back. They definitely need a goalkeeper sooner or later. So I don't disagree on that. But those are not the reasons they're performing the way they are. You just said that you think the squad is good enough, but then you don't want to give the manager blame or full criticism on this. When there's a couple players underperforming, I usually don't look at the manager. I'm like, you know what? What's wrong with you? Is there something going on with your personal life? Are you not fit? Are you injured? Is your mind on something? I don't know. But when there's too many players that are not performing to a level that we expect them to be performing at, then you start looking at the manager. It's so easy, especially that we saw how they started the season. They went on like a 6-game winning streak where we all said, "Oh, are they going to be contending for the title this season? Are they title contenders?" The drop off that they had over the last 10 games is not just down to personnel. There's a couple games where I'm like, you know what? Today with a finisher, you win. Today with a goalkeeper that's not a bozo, you win.